All right, welcome to Tips and Tricks, and today what I'm going to do is show you how to create a simple navbar in 7 simple steps with Flexbox, whatever you want to call it. When you're learning HTML and CSS, and I'm going to assume people watching this have HTML and CSS, at least some knowledge and experience. One of the hardest things is layout. Getting the screen to look how you want it to look, to match your design, right? Like it used to take me upwards of an hour just to figure out how to make a simple header like this, right? Well, in the past, we'd have to use clears, floats. You could use inline blocks, but there were some tricks that had to do with that. And now we have Flex or Flexbox, whatever you want to call it. I'll just call it Flexbox from here on out. And it makes it much easier to do complex layouts, to make this, the screen look how you want it to look, to make it match your design. So we're going to go over that in 7 simple steps. You may say, I don't use, I've never heard of Flexbox. Why is that? All right, well, Flexbox came out with CSS 3, so it's newer. And, in the past, until, recent, last couple months, maybe half year, recent advances in different browsers, it wasn't as compatible, right? It was probably around 70 to 75% compatible. And what I mean by that is that's factored in all the people in the world and what browsers they use. 75% of people in the world wouldn't be able, or only 75% would their browsers that they're using be compatible with Flexbox. In other words, that other 25%, it would look messed up on their screen, right? Well, now it's up to 95%. 1 in 20, that's enough for me. You decide. Who uses Flexbox? A lot of people use Flexbox. There's even CSS and HTML frameworks out there. I think Foundation's one that has Flexbox built into some of their versions. Shay Howe, who's highly regarded HTML and CSS teacher, uses Flexbox here in his site alone. All right, enough for that. If you think 1 in 20 is enough, you'll fall in love with Flexbox. I promise. It makes it so easy to code complex layouts. So let's get started building this navbar in 7 simple steps. Okay, so step number 1 is just to put in the HTML, right? So what we're going to do is go ahead and open whatever editor you use and create a file. I've already created one over here with Sublime. I'm just going to bring it into view here. And all we got to do is create the HTML to go in there, right? So I use a plugin, whatever you call it, package with Sublime called Emmet. So what I'm going to do is just go ahead and save this. You don't have to do it this way. Give me 1 second and you'll be able to, paste in or type in all the HTML and CSS. So I'll just go straight to the desktop and title this file index.html, right? And actually, let me. All right, now we'll title this index.html. And save it, right? And then for Emmet, all you have to do is put exclamation mark and press tab, and it'll create your HTML. So we have the HTML there. Document, let's just go ahead and call flex navbar document title, right? All right, and so what all do we need here? See, so we need a navbar. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and call that a header. And you can do with Emmet just like that. Right? And then it looks like all this is wrapped in a container here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a div with a class of container. And actually, just for naming sakes, let's go ahead and call it a flex container just so we understand what's going on. Right? And then what do we have? We have maybe, a title here. So I'll just go ahead and give it an H1. ID, header, title, right? And we'll just say RyanVonHart.com. Actually, let's say welcome to. And we'll also want to spell that right, but wrap it in and href, right? For now, let's do that. All right. And what else do we need? We have, let's go back over to here. We have an unordered list with 4 list items. So we'll just go ahead and say UL times 4. This is another Emmet shortcut. And actually, all right, and we'll give each of these that about me, right, was 1. What was the next one? My projects, quotes, grade reads. Is that all of them? All right, perfect. All right, so we have all the HTML, so we're done with step 1. And step 2 is as simple as grabbing a CSS reset. So it's not that big of a deal, but a CSS reset is just, different browsers have different defaults. So we want to grab a reset just to make sure we are starting from the same defaults for everything. So what we want to do, CSS reset. And I usually grab Eric Meyer's, just to show you 2015's most common CSS resets, Eric Meyer's right there. I don't want to grab the code from them because they'll ask for my email address. So what we're going to do is just copy all this, right? Create a new document, paste it, save it, and we'll put it in a folder, CSS folder, titled reset.css. All right. And then we need to link to it over here, of course. So we just want link, and we'll go css.reset.css, right? So we shouldn't see much difference here, or much at all yet, but yep, just nice lined up. You can see the default zeros and stuff, that it's all tight up in there. All right, so step number 3. Step number 3 is as simple as setting up, this container, right? Getting it to have this width and to start displaying the items in Flex. So let's just check out this container here, and I'm pretty sure, it has, background color is fine, border color, E7, we're going to go ahead and give it a height of 51, all that good stuff, right? So what we're going to do is we have to create, a new CSS. So, and we're just going to say flex container, let's give it a width, 970 pixels. Let's put it in the middle, so margin 0 auto. Let's do it a height of like 51 pixels, and let's give it a border bottom, just to show you 1px solid, what was it, E7077. All right, so we're going to save that. Go ahead and save it as main.css, and now we need to link over to css-main.css. All right, simple as that, right? Now I'll go back over here, reload the page. All right, so you can see the nav bar centered, right? We're completely out of the nav bar, but it's centered and it's got that border bottom. Actually, sorry, I did that on the wrong thing. Wasn't really thinking there. That's not part of the container. That's the nav, right? Or actually, I think I called it the header. All right, now it goes the full width. All right, cool. So what we're going to do here now is we're going to set this up to be a Flex container here. So the first thing you do to get it going is display Flex. And this guide right here, I've included this because it's an awesome guide to everything CSS3 Flex, and it goes into really complex topics, or not really complex. I don't think Flex is really complex, but more complex topics in Flex, which is awesome. But definitely go through that guide at the end of this, and this will make much more sense, plus give you, a lot more tools to, create sites exactly how you want them to look. So first thing we need to do is make it display flex. So on the flex container, display flex, right? And now you'll see when it displays flex, what happens is the flex direction is default row. So what you're going to do is, now that we have that saved, we're going to go over here, reload the page, and now you're going to see them in that flex direction default row. So there's a piece, because you're looking at the div class flex container, right? Is the parent element, and then the two child elements is the H1 and the UL. So those are the two displayed in a row, right? This UL is still stacked because they're list items, they're block elements, so they're still on top of each other. We'll fix that with flex as well here in a second, but for now, that's step 3. Okay, step number 4 is to get these two items, the unordered list and the H1 here, the title, to push all the way away from each other, right? So when we look at this, we have, the title all the way to the left of the container, and then we have all these list items, or the unordered list itself, all the way to the right of the container. So if we look at this Flexbox guide right here, we have different Flexbox rules right here, right? So we have the display, which is flex. You have the flex direction, which is row default. That's exactly how we wanted to do it. Then you have flex wrap. We won't worry about that for now. And then you have justify content. So justify content defines everything along the main axis. So basically the way this works is, come over here, since we said it to be row, the main axis is going to be the row. It's going to be the x-axis, right? And then the cross-axis is going to be the y-axis. If we had said for it to display as column, right? So like go down here and you'll see, this is displaying as row to start off with, right? They're displaying in a row to start off with. So the main axis is the x and the y-axis is the cross-axis. But then once you get it to be skinnier, then they display on top of each other, right? So they display in a column. So then the main axis would be the y-axis and the cross-axis would be the x-axis. Gets a little confusing, but for now, the main axis is the x-axis because we're displaying it in a row, right? They're in a row, left, right of each other. So what we want to do is we want to look for all right, so justify content. This defines the alignment along the main axis. For us, since it's in a row, the main axis is the x-axis. And what it does is it helps distribute extra free space left over when either all the flex items on a line are inflexible or are flexible and have reached their maximum size. So basically what this is saying is flex start is default. So everything's going to be at the start of the main axis, which in our case is the x-axis. So that's exactly how it is right now. See, they're all pushed to the left, so that's the start of the main axis. Now, what we're looking for is one that pushes them all the way to the side. So check out space between. See that? So it gives all that space in between the items. So in other words, we want all the space in between the two. So what we're going to say is we're going to say justify content within the container, and we're going to say space between. We're going to say justify content, space between. Boom. Now you see it pushed all the way to the side of the container. This one's pushed all the way to the left of the container. As simple as that, that's step 4. We're good to go. Step number 5, all we're going to do is get this unordered list here to display in Flex as well. And remember, the default is to display in a row, so that's exactly what we're going to want it to do. So all we're going to have to do is say unordered list. I mean, if we want to be more specific, we can say, right? And we'll just say display flex. Boom. And as simple as that, let's give it a little padding. So let's just say, I mean, there's only list items on there, so I'm just going to keep this simple for now and just say padding 5 pixels, maybe 10 pixels. right? Beautiful, as simple as that. All right, and now, actually, I'll wait to the end to do all the fun CSS. So yeah, step 5, right there. All right, now for step number 6, what we want to do is we want to make these all aligned vertically, right? So we want them in the center of the page, just like here. So we want them all aligned vertically, and we want them in the center of this nav bar. So the one thing what we can do is we can come over here, and remember we have the cross axis. So in our case, since they're all displaying in a row, the cross axis is the x-axis. I'm sorry, the main axis. We have the main axis is the x-axis because it's all displaying in a row. The cross axis is the y-axis. So we want them all centered in the cross axis. So let's go and find something that does the, all right, so there's the cross axis. So align items defines the default behavior for how flex items are laid out along the cross axis on the current line. So, well, I'll show you. So first off, we want to make that container and do align items. We want it to be center, right? So we're going to come over here. We're in the container and align items center. Simple as that. Boom. All right, so you notice they are centered, right? They're in a row, but they're not centered in this nav bar. The reason behind that is because for right now, this container's height, right, is determined by its contents. So it's 36 pixels, right? It's centered within the 36 pixels, but however, the header is what? 51 pixels tall plus that border bottom, so really 52 pixels, yep. So what we want to do is make this flex container have a height of 52 pixels. Just like that, reload the page. Now they're all centered together, right? So let's just make sure. Oh, won't let me go any higher than that. But yeah, so they're all centered right in the middle there. So beautiful. That is step 6. And really all we have left to do is have a little fun with the CSS encoding. So let's go ahead and do that now. We won't make it any more complicated than it has to be, so we'll just go ahead and come over here and check out what it was, right? So let's just see. The H1 had a color of 888, font size 20 pixels. Actually, let me just go and grab some of this, right? This is just simple, optional stuff, fun stuff. So H1 is the only one on there, so won't make it more complicated than we have to be. Text align, we don't need that. We don't need the padding. And so, boom. Another thing we want to do is take away all links, right? Or all link decorations. Text decoration, none. So we need to be more specific here so that the coloring takes effect. Let's just come over here and we'll just say, well, we don't need that H1 there, but anyways. And let's add, save it. All right, so we're good here. Now we'll just do the 4 colors over here. We won't worry too much. We won't worry about the border at the bottom or the size or anything like that. We'll just do, well, we could do, do they have font size right around here? Where's the font size? All right, let's not worry about that. We'll just do color, and maybe we'll go over these child elements just in case you've never seen that before, and font weight. So all list items have a font weight of 700, right? Font weight 700 px, probably font size, I don't know, 15 px, and let's see what that looks like. Boom, yeah, like that. And we could change the font, but we're not going to worry about that. And then, of course, we will do, so li, first child, this is a pseudo element, right? A. And we can even be more specific. It's child A. And we can give it a color. So all this is saying is the the first list item, right? There we can even say UL, but that's first list item. Give its anchor tag a color of 2ECC71. 2ECC71. Boom. Oh, guess I should put color in there. All right. So let's go ahead and check that out. Now you see that color. And we can do the same thing with the other three, but what we'll do is instead of first child, what you do is nth child, so you can see it here. See nth child 2. And E7 force, C, 3C, and 3498 dB. And last but not least, F3 9C12. All right, beautiful. As simple as that, right? Nice and easy. Navbar. The last thing we will do is the prefix. So remember earlier, I talked about with the can I use that, right? With the unprefixed, 72%. So right now, this is unprefixed, right? We don't have any prefixes going with the flex, so only 72% this will work with. I have an Autoprefixer with Sublime package control, so basically what I could be doing in here is I'll show you right here. So Command Shift P, Autoprefix CSS, I push enter, it runs for a second, boom. So now you can see all these prefixes, right, with the flex. So you have display WebKit Flex, display MS Flexbox, display Flex, as well as you have WebKit Justify Content. You have all that, right? So what I'm going to show you is we'll save that. And it does that automatically, the Autoprefixer, or you could be putting these in yourself. And one thing just to show you is you can just look up Autoprefixer, whatever your editor is, right, if you don't have that. So Sublime, boom, Autoprefixer, right here, and it'll tell you how to install it, all that good stuff. And to show you, say like only support, partial support with prefix -ms, you'll see that. Let's see. Supported with prefix WebKit, see that? Partial support with prefix WebKit. So you see these prefixes now. See WebKit Flex, MS Flexbox Flex. All right, so cool, 7 simple steps. We created our own Navbar in less than probably 15, 20 minutes.